Australian Bushfire Crisis. I live in the Blue Mountains, which is west of Sydney. The Blue Mountains, if you didn't know, is part of the Great Dividing Range and thus a national park. We are quite literally surrounded by fires from the north to the south. At any moment the wind could change and could wipe out potentially hundreds of homes, mine included. We have never seen anything this big before. Fires are normal for us, but this scale of fires is absolutely insane. However, I want to thank the rest of the world got their generosity at this times. It is truly heartwarming to see so many people give support from all corners of the globe. Peace be with you, and I hope the rain heads our way. That's terrible. I traveled to Sydney from the US a couple years ago and visited the Blue Mountains while I was there. It was just such a beautiful area with gorgeous scenery. I wish you well, and hopefully the fires will subside soon. It's truly a beautiful place. Thank you for your well wishes. The amazing thing about our bushland is that the fires are actually good for them, just not so much for us humans. Thanks again, Edit. I have been informed these fires are too hot and too extensive, and thus some areas will not recover. Very sad indeed. Remember, the firefighters that are fighting the bushfires aren't full-time firefighters. They have jobs like accountants, etc., and do this as volunteers. They use up their annual leave to fight the fires, or if they are understanding boss, leave without pay. I tip my hat to anyone that does this. I work in payroll, and I had an employee apply for annual leave for the last 4 days as they were out fighting fires. I consulted all my higher-ups, requesting that we deny the leave and pay him his ordinary hours without sacrificing any leave he has accrued. They didn't even hesitate in agreeing with me. I only hope that other companies are able to do this. The statement NAB released that they'll provide unlimited paid leave to their volunteer firefighters made me so happy. They deserve so much for all they've done. Obligatory Platinum, Gold Edit. I thank you for these awards, but I don't deserve them, monsieur. I'm purely doing what I believe is right. I'd much rather the money be spent on donating to these volunteers and to the people and animals who need our help. In addition to OP's links, donations for Wildlife Victoria can be found, piggybacking in this to get some visibility. Good Start Early Learning is also offering free childcare for kids of volunteers for up to 6 weeks. Doesn't matter if you haven't used them before, they're happy to help. If you're volunteering and need help to watch your kids, give them a call. As an Australian, the scariest part of these fires is when it's so hot and out of control. It creates its own weather system, including fire tornadoes, huge fire blasts and lightning strikes. We have bushfires every year that we have been evacuated for, but never like this. So much of our wildlife and heritage listed bush is destroyed. My family leaves water out, and we're constantly finding animals like echidnas and possums drinking from it. The moment we all knew it was bad was when 4,000 people were stranded on a tiny beach while these fires so quickly took over the towns, and the only way to escape was into the ocean. The international support has been insane, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you. There is a lot going on in the world, and it's nice to know people can come together in times like these for complete strangers. Smelling the smoke every day, and knowing people out fighting fires has made me pretty aware of what's going on. Seeing photos of kids in boats while the sky was red, that drove it home. Absolutely devastating. It is weird being in a town at the center of international news coverage. We have all been walking around town, not knowing what day it is or where we are meant to be. I spent almost a full 24 hours knowing that my dad was defending his property, but not knowing whether he was okay. I spent night without power, internet, water, or phone reception. Every road to our north and south were closed due to fire. We were hearing of people we knew driving their cars into the lake to escape. I passed midnight in my car, with ABC radio playing, eating a Christmas cookie and drinking warm white wine. I heard the radio announce a man had died a few kilometers to my north. Dad was a few kilometers to my north. We turned on the barbecue the next day to cook up meat that was going bad quickly. I had his ute at our place. We had the door open and ABC radio on. My dad walked up and made a snide remark about leaving his car idling. His eyes were really blue and I could tell he had been crying. But at least he wasn't dead, and the farm had been saved. He stopped it with a rake. Thousands upon thousands of tourists fleeing the town by car. One lady had been in her car since 630. It was 430 the next morning by the time they moved. 22 hours, not including the 2 hours she had to go before reaching her destination. Usually a 3H trip. Then, later that week, Dad came to our house for the day because we had power back. He got a call in the afternoon, could he come back home, because the farm was on fire again. The roads were blocked and he was stuck. He almost drove through a creek in his tradie van trying to get there despite my pleas. It was about 8 hours of not knowing if the property would be okay. During that time, fires flared up on 2 sides of my own house, so we bounced between hosing my yard and worrying about the pharmacia. Just after midnight, an old neighbor of Dad's stopped in and told us the house had been saved. We had a cuppa and talked for an hour about what had just happened this week. Comparatively, we got off so easy, but it was still the scariest week of my life. Edit. Forgot to add, usually my town is buzzing with tourists this year. While it's nice to get a parking spot in town, the ghostly quietness is choking our small businesses. Please check out @SpendWithEm on Instagram to help fire-affected small businesses in Australia. I'm so sorry. Hearing and seeing the name of the tiny towns I grew up near and in is blowing my mind. I wish it had been for better reasons. Take care of yourself. Recovering from this kind of trauma is a long process. I know farmers and people in rural communities are tough as nails, but the effects on mental health are going to be rough. XX. Let's not forget the 1.25 billion plus animals that have been killed, and the growing more that are injured and losing their habitat. This is honestly the biggest issue moving forward. The heartbreaking loss of life and property for are beyond devastating. However, for our native wildlife and flora, these fires could well indeed bring things to a level of mass extinction to a number of species and destruction of biodiversity as we know it. I beg the world and all Australians to put pressure on our governments to make regeneration our primary focus. We need to act on climate change, dedicate wide areas as national parks and habitats, and replenish our forests. This means less expansion and habitat encroachment, less reallocation of natural resources, and more national parks declared where our native animals and plants can thrive. I hope this isn't a stupid question or ignorant, but how did these start? Do we know? So many colliding factors. 1. Severe drought which has dried out even damp rainforest environments. There was literally piles of kindling everywhere. So climate change. Then 2. Intense weather conditions with extreme heat and wind which prevented normal hazard reduction. Burning earlier in the year and created perfect fire conditions this summer. Then 3. Fires started either naturally or intentionally or accidentally which cannot be contained because of the previous 2 things. Then 4. Poor government policy and funding means that there was not a national management strategy in place, and enough helicopters, resources amassed to manage the crisis. Then 5. Large fires generate their own weather systems, which cause dry lightning, which causes more fires. As a Californian, I thought our wildfires are bad, but this is nothing compared to Australia. It's the most apocalyptic thing I seen. Saw a pic and it straight up looked like Armageddon with the amount of red in the picture. It's crazy that even New Zealand have red skies. The distance between Australia and New Zealand is like the distance between California and Kansas. As an Australian, I want to thank the international community for acknowledging the extent of this crisis and their ongoing support. I'm not directly affected by the fires, but it's amazing to see complete strangers across the world donate to our charities and send firefighters to help us and the animals during this time. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Edit. Thank you for all the comments and support. I agree. Our government should be doing more, and it's a shame that we have to resort to asking for help. I hope our government is held accountable. As others have said, many other countries are faced with devastating floods or other disasters due to climate change. Please, let's make an effort to be better and challenge those in power to do better. Climate change is real. We have one planet. Let's take care of it. Random lady in the US. Our family donated 50 AUD to wildlife causes through https://www.wires.org. We have a whole middle school fundraising in teams called Wallaby, Wombat, and Kookaburra. None of the kids we know who are doing this have ever been to Australia, but they care a lot. There are Dutch children going door to door collecting plastic bottles to raise money. Do it specifically for the koalas. The international support during these fires has been fantastic, and I'd like to send out my thanks to those who have contributed in any way. It means so much. The air quality has been getting worse in my town these past few days, and the fires have been escalating. Lots of burnt leaves and bark falling this month. It's definitely concerning. I would just like a second to remind all Australian Reddit users to do a basic vehicle checklist to make sure you have the best chance of making it out if you need to evacuate. You can do 90% of these things right now. Please make sure you have at least a half tank of fuel in your tank at all times too. Keep at least 4 liters of water in a container in your car at all times. Please make sure you check coolant level in your radiator if possible. The coolant level should be at most a couple centimeters below the coolant fill neck. If your coolant level is low, and you don't have pre-mixed coolant on hand, you can use tap hose water in an emergency. Please check tire pressure levels and filter recommended pressure. This can usually be found on the sill of your car door or in your vehicle user manual. You can refill tires at most petrol stations. Make sure your washer fluid is full. This will help with ash and debris in an emergency situation. Check headlights, blinkers, and tail lights and replace any blown bulbs if possible. Make sure all your windows on your vehicle are clean. Remove bird droppings, mud, etc. You want as much visibility in a heavy smoke condition as possible. Make sure all your mirrors are as clean as possible, for the same reason you clean your windows. Make sure window wiper blades work adequately or replace them. Monsieur Super Cheap Auto has wipers for 80% of all common vehicles on the road for relatively cheap. They can fit them for you if this is an issue. Buy jumper cables for your vehicle if possible. This might help you, or others if their battery develops issues. Keep a small first aid kit in your car at all times. Just basic. Keep duct tape, sharp knife, razor blades, zip tees, rope, basic Phillips and flathead driver if possible. Generally good things to have in your car. Please don't overlook these. The majority of these things can be done at little to no cost and might save you in an evacuation. Good luck to everybody. Hopefully we see some rain today.